Hey, what's going on there, YouTube? This is SEL0320 representing JVS. I'm back here again for a brand new movie review. This is an early release, non-spoiler review for Eddie the Eagle. What did I think about this film? I came into the film looking at the trailers that I saw, and I was thinking, man, this could be kind of like an underdog kind of story, kind of reminiscent of Rudy, or maybe like Forrest Gump in a certain extent, or even like, I really didn't know going into the film what I was kind of feeling like, man, I don't know where this is gonna go. But by the end of the movie, I came out so encouraged and so fulfilled in a lot of different ways that I think that the prime example of the movie is that courage is not something that can be learned. You are born with it. And come along with this whole entire edition of Taron Egerton, Hugh Jackman, Christopher Walken. Amazing actors in this film, but this movie had so much heart that I was really riveted by the end of the film. So the story talks about this is a real life story of Eddie Edwards. I'll read you the synopsis of it. The story of Eddie Edwards, the notoriously tenacious British underdog ski jumper who charms the world in the 1988 Winter Olympics. Now, the thing about this film, it takes place really early on, like 1973, when you got like a young Eddie and he's just had inspiring dreams. I think one of the first shots is showing him just trying to hold his breath and see how long he can get it count. He's trying to search for something he's good at, some sport, some athletics, so he can be able to compete in the Olympics, just in general. And then it goes from a broad state to him eventually going into kind of like skiing and trying to see where he's going to go with developing, you know, his craft essentially. And it's so funny the dialogue that happens between him and his parents that are the motivation of getting him where he needs to go. But I'll get into that a little bit later on, because the thing about it is this movie spans a long time frame. Like I said, it's all about the culmination of the 1988 Olympic Games, but the movie takes place in a lot of different locations: Austria, Switzerland, Germany, Britain, London. It even goes at one point on the European circuit, I think around like the 1987 time frame, and you get to see some of the most amazing visual cinematics from ski slopes and ski jumping that I think I've ever seen in a movie, because Matthew Vaughn was the actual producer of this film. And you know Kick-Ass, if you know X-Men First Class, he's got an art for the flair of film and cinematography in general, and he just really has this amazing, impeccable timing when it comes to comedic nature. And this movie is nothing short of that. It does that and exceeds it that. The director, Dexter Fletcher, is normally in a lot of acting roles, like Kick-Ass, like I think he's been in a lot of different movies. The Coven, I remember. I think he was also in Lionheart, Layer Cake, but to his name, like as far as directing is concerned, he's only had 3 movies he's actually directed. This is his 3rd film. So to me, I think that for this being his 3rd, he's definitely going to be looked at later on for a lot more films, because I think that he did a phenomenal job actually directing this film. But yeah, as far as the visual is concerned, there was a lot of times I felt really tense. I felt like, man, because the jumps that he has to go from, when he finally gets to the location where he has to go, starts off with like maybe like a 15-meter jump, then it goes to like, no, it's a 17-meter jump, then it goes to a 40-meter jump, then you see a 70-meter jump. Now the thing about these jumps, I think that Hugh Jackman, his character, kind of paints the story that, okay, yeah, you know, you get away with the 17, you can maybe get away with the 40 without, you know, breaking anything, but by the time you're at a 70, you're risking your life. And I think the way that he described like the 90-meter, which is the Olympic style, that basically they've already counted your body bag before you've even hit the ground. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so, to say the least, like they captured that moment of the life and the breath of actually the sport and the competition behind it, but at the same exact time, the courage that's required to even do something. Like, it takes somebody that is insane to even think to go this route, and just this amazing dream that Eddie has so much heart, because when you're actually seeing what he has to go through and the struggle, and at the same exact time, even where he came from, being a little kid with a brace, to the point where he has to get to where he has to go at a certain meter It's really amazing to actually watch. But as far as the visuals are concerned, I thought the visuals are amazing. But another thing I have to talk about really quick is the soundtrack. The soundtrack is awesome. Like, it's got this 70s/80s vibe to it, and it's upbeat, up-tempo, and I loved it. Like, that was one of the things that I really thought was rich about this movie is the soundtrack. And I think the actors play off of that, so that would be a good segue. So as far as Taron Egerton in the role of Eddie Edwards, I think he does an amazing job, because if you look at him in the Kingsman, he's like this macho guy. He's, Brit, but at the same time coming from the other block, like he knows how to defend himself. This kid, he's the geekiest guy you'd ever know. He's got a lot of heart, but he's got a lot of innocence about him. There's things that he just doesn't know, and he's got this naive sense that he can dare to dream. And at the same exact time, you think about like his parents, like his father on one side is kind of like opposed to everything, just kind of pushing it in his face back and forth. And at the same exact time, you've got the British Parliament that's pushing everything at him and saying, we don't want you to represent this nation because you are not good enough, essentially. Even though he proves it times and times again. And it's like his character has everything, the weight of the world pushing him back from his dream. And at every turn, like, I think that Egerton plays it so well, because like without him having that innocence and without him picking up on the mannerisms of the actual person so well, that it would not have been that excellent execution. But at the same exact time, those comedic numbers and the chemistry with him and Hugh Jackman was even more commendable, because Bronson Perry comes off as like, you think it's kind of this drunkard, like this washout, but then there's this one interesting sequence where he actually goes on the actual slopes himself, and it's like one of the most epic moments, and that's Matthew Vaughn written all over that one sequence, that alone. But it sets off this interesting journey of these men. Like, I think that Hugh Jackman's character Bronson is trying to come back on a comeback trail, because he was, the overseer of like a legacy that he thought he was trying to uphold, and he couldn't achieve it the way that he wanted to. And then that's where Christopher Walken's character comes in, but he's really more of a voiceover. Like, he's not in the movie really that much. It's more so the lessons that Bronson learns from the dialogue by Christopher Walken. I thought that was one of the more things that cemented this film, and the ethics behind it, and the desire to uproot yourself and redefine what you were as to who you are. And I think that chemistry between Hugh Egerton and even Christopher Walken's character, I think that made the movie so much more stronger, because Warren Sapp is the character that he plays, but it's an interesting legacy I'm not going to bring up. But as far as all in all, as far as the story, it plays like any kind of biopic that you would kind of see in nature from beginning to end, but it's got so much richness and so much comedic nature, and at the same exact time, a lot of danger. Like, there's a lot of moments where you're looking, it's like, how can he overcome this? Don't do this. Like, you're saying this while you're in the crowd. Other people behind me, they were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's about to try to do this. There's no way he can do this. And it's the ultimate kind of underdog tale. Like, it is, to me, what Forrest Gump was for the 90s. Like, this can actually redefine the athlete in all of us. All those ones that have this daring to dream, this willingness to have courage in spite of what everybody's telling you. And it's a really good feel-good movie, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was actually deserving of a 9.5 out of 10 rating. Surprisingly, I was thinking that I was going to give it maybe a 9 or maybe like a 8.5 out of 10, but I have to give this a 9.5 out of 10 because I didn't see a moment that I was thinking, man, this is bad, man, this is terrible, man, this drew on too long. I thought that every moment was sincere and every moment had feeling and life into it. There was this one epic moment that Eddie the Eagle, when he starts to actually flap, that actually puts him into a different realm that I thought that his character couldn't go. Because the dialogue after that precedes to Hugh Jackman's character talking to him about where his character really is at this point, and it adds richness to life about it. And I'll describe more of this in my spoiler-filled review, but hopefully you enjoyed this review for Eddie the Eagle that I thought was a masterpiece in short. 9.5 out of 10 for me. This is SEL 0320 representing JVS. Later, y'all.